Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my top 20 week 1 rapid fire college football overreactions. I wanted to wait until that Sunday night game was done. That's why I'm doing this on Monday. But these are just going to be kind of 20 things that I take away from the weekend. Not every one of them is going to be an overreaction, but I've got to title the video something. So let's get going. Number 1, LSU. I said this in the preseason. I was wary of them. I was picking Florida State as a 3-point underdog to win the game outright last night, and I was vindicated. LSU, they were propped up by an extremely overrated season last year where everyone was like, oh my goodness, they won the SEC West. They returned their quarterback. They've got Harold Perkins. But guys, it was a fluke last year. They barely beat Alabama at home. This year they go at Bama. They lose week 1. They've got a very tough schedule. I could see this team under Brian Kelly finishing 8-4. This was a preseason take by me. It wasn't just because of their performance last night. I've been saying it for a while. LSU, they are pretenders. They will lose 3 games in conference and finish 8-4 or around there. Number 2, Ohio State. We've got an issue here. And you don't want to overreact with the Ohio State quarterback, but Kyle McCord really didn't show much. It was his first game, but you also have to remember, this is year number 3 now for Kyle McCord in the Ryan Day system. It's not like a CJ Stroud scenario where he was starting as a, true sophomore. He had thrown 0 passes. McCord's actually had playing time, and he still looks this anemic. He's got concrete feet. He really has a slow throwing motion, and if I was Ohio State and I was Ryan Day, I would say, all right, let's just wash that one, whatever. We're rolling with Devin Brown game 2. We would love to see Devin Brown change his jersey number. I mean, my goodness, number 33. It's gonna, it's almost like Devin Brown's destined to fail because of his jersey number. But the Ohio State quarterback situation, very not good. And also you have to think, you've got Emeka Egbuka. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming, the best receiver core in college football. There's got to be a way better output than that. That was really bad against Indiana. Although Indiana was a frustrating team, it really seemed like they were just trying to run the clock out because of the new clock rules. But either way, Ohio State, week number 4 at Notre Dame, they are susceptible there to a loss. That will be huge. Will they start Kyle McCord that game? And if he struggles, bring in possibly Devin Brown. Seems like a nightmare quarterback situation right now. Jalen Milroe will be a load to deal with. Guys, I could see a Jalen Milroe breakout game this week at home against Texas. I am really not buying Texas this year. You know what happened with me in Texas? It just gets to a point where you fool me once, you fool me twice, you fool me 3 times, you fool me 4 times, you fool me 5. It's at a certain point with Texas, I'm not buying it. We're done. And it's not even like Quinn Ewers has really shown. Like, I understand he was a number 1 overall recruit, but he hasn't shown to be an elite college quarterback. So I really think Alabama's going to cover the 7-point spread this week. And Jalen Milroe, this is something the Alabama offense really hasn't had. It is going to be an elite running game, and it's not just the running backs, it's Jalen Milroe running the football as kind of like Cam Newton physicality. That's how big this dude is, and Nick Saban's going to utilize the run. They're going to eat the clock, and they're going to have a really good defense, a really good rushing offense. Alabama football, I'm not saying just because they beat Middle Tennessee, oh, Jalen Milroe, the 5 total touchdowns. I'm saying you can see this dude is a load. Alabama, with the amount of talent that they have, they're setting up for a big win against Texas, in my opinion there. Florida State makes the playoff easy. They've got vets and talent. So Florida State, this is an overreaction video, so I'm going to say, yes, they easily make the playoff. But seriously, when you look at this team, you look at Jordan Travis, you look at the receivers, the transfer from Michigan State, Coleman, Jared Verse, who could have been a first-round pick last year as a pass rusher. They have the veteran leadership, and they have the talent. This is a golden opportunity for FSU to, at minimum, make the playoff or at least a New Year's Six Bowl, and they crush LSU. Now, it's not a conference game, but the ACC, they do have that tough game against Clemson. Other than that, Florida State should be good this year to make the playoff. Colorado, they're a 7-5 football team. I said this in the preseason. Colorado, I had them losing by a touchdown to TCU as 20-point underdogs. They end up winning. It didn't shock me. I think the Colorado hype And the reason they're really being overhyped, it's two different things. Number one, it's the whole Deion Sanders thing, Travis Hunter, his son at quarterback. But number two, a lot of casual people don't realize how lucky TCU was last year, and the amount of times I hear, oh my goodness, they beat the team that made the national title last year. It's just such a distortion of facts when it comes to TCU and how good they were last year. TCU had about 100 things fall right. If the season goes a number of different ways, they could have lost 3 games last year and been out of a New Year's Six Bowl. So TCU, even last year, I don't think was that good. They were still solid, and then this year they lose everyone, and I don't know. I think there's going to be definitely some people overrating Colorado after their win, but they're going to win 7 games. I think they'll make a bowl. Maybe they'll be 6-6, and, it's a tough Pac-12 as well. Oklahoma beats Texas this year. So this is another one. Oklahoma, they crush Arkansas State. But I have to say, if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I've got to defend myself a little bit because Arkansas State is not an FCS team. And we're seeing all these games where teams are dropping 70 burgers, 80 burgers on FCS teams. Arkansas State lost to Ohio State last year like 38-12. So they're not this horrifically bad FCS team. And I think Oklahoma with Dylan Gabriel, second year under Brett Venables, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. And I just think Texas, again, is overrated, so I'll take Oklahoma to win that rivalry game later in the season. Texas Tech is still good, yes, so you're going to get a lot of overreactions. Texas Tech, how do you lose to Wyoming? Guys, it's a number of factors. It's a lightning delay. It's on the road. Wyoming, they've got a good culture. They've got a good defense. It's double overtime, whatever. Texas Tech is still a solid team, although they do have another very tough game at home against Oregon. That's going to be a great non-conference game. I would still have Texas Tech, honestly, probably as a top 25 team. They impressed me. They actually would move up on my top 25 rankings after their showing against Wyoming because you have to factor in all the things. And it was, to me, it was a fine showing. It's just unfortunate. Number 8, let's not overhype North Carolina. Yeah, so North Carolina, they're ranked right now. They're going to move up. They beat South Carolina. I'm just not buying it with North Carolina. I still think they lose 4 or 5 games with Drake May. They don't have enough of a supporting cast there. Maybe they surprise me, but I'm still, at this point, I'm not bought in. This is a huge year for Notre Dame. So Notre Dame with Sam Hartman, the veteran quarterback, he set records at Wake Forest, and now he's transferring and playing great. Yes, they haven't faced good competition, but they have that huge Week 4 game against an Ohio State team who's going to really be susceptible to losing that game on the road. 7:30 NBC game. That game is huge for Notre Dame. They've got a number of other big games, including a game versus USC. This is a big year for Marcus Freeman. Year 2 could really rev this program. We'll see how well they end up doing. Tulane humbled me. Yeah, I did think Tulane was going to lose to South Alabama, and their quarterback, Pratt, I think he was 14 of 15 for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns, even without Tajay Spears. They've got a huge game with Ole Miss coming up this week. Number 11, Illinois. Pretty much what I expected. I said, take Toledo plus the 9.5. Toledo almost wins that game outright. Guys, Illinois is going to be an overrated team this year. I think they lose probably 5 games, even in a weak division. Georgia feels like a disappointment this year. Yes, so Georgia comes out against UT Martin. They don't cover the 50-point spread. They've got this terrible schedule. I certainly am starting to believe that Georgia will drop a regular season game to someone, whether it's Tennessee or maybe it's an upset. And then I do think they will lose in the SEC championship. Something feels off about this Georgia team. It's basically impossible to three-peat, and I don't think they will be in the playoff this year. Ole Miss and Tennessee running up the score was sad. Very, very sad to see both of these teams. Ole Miss against an FCS team, Tennessee against Virginia. They really struggled in the first half. I don't know. Tennessee has that gimmick offense where they run 300 plays in a minute. That was going on. Miami of Florida is actually really good. So yes, Miami, They beat Miami of Ohio, the Battle of Miami. Nobody talked about it, but they covered the spread easily. They won 38-3. They've got two really good safeties. They've got a veteran quarterback who had a bad season last year, but we all expected him to be maybe a dark horse Heisman. This is kind of an underrated team, I feel like, right now. They're certainly not going to be inside of the top 25, but they've got the talent, and they had kind of an under-the-radar dominant victory in week 1 because it was a Friday night game. Air Force might finish 12-0. This Air Force team, I've been on the bandwagon since the preseason. People saying the analytics, they might make the playoff this year. They're super impressive, and they destroy Robert Morris, and now they're like 15-point favorites over Sam Houston. Travis Hunter and the Heisman will be annoying. So yes, this is going to be an issue if Colorado, well, honestly, even next year, depending, because Travis Hunter's only a sophomore, but the problem is going to be Travis Hunter's obviously not going to have Heisman numbers at the receiver position, but then also if he's a good cornerback, how do you scale that and factor that into the Heisman race against your traditional Heisman quarterbacks, Heisman running back? I do think Travis Hunter has a phenomenal chance if Colorado exceeds expectations to win the Heisman, because there is a big hunger for any position outside of quarterback, especially a defensive position or something exotic like this, winning the Heisman. I think he's got a great chance, and right now, in terms of, the only thing that can stop it, I would say, is if he gets injured, or it's a situation where Colorado goes like 6-6 or 5-7, you just can't give it to him. But if they go like 8-4, I can still see him getting it, because if you factor in the defense, like say he has 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns and then plays shutdown corner, it's very hard to scale that and judge that against, a traditional quarterback throwing for 50 passing touchdowns. Number 17, these FCS games gotta go, man. They're just so uncompetitive. You can again, like Arkansas State, if you want to beat Arkansas State 73-0, that's fine. If you want to beat Akron 73-0, that's fine. It's just a different level with FCS to where it seems like it's Division 1 versus Division 3. And it kind of feels cruel. And you're seeing the 70 burgers, you're seeing the 80 burgers, the game lines that come out, it's -50, -55. You would think at some point the FCS games would just be banned, where FBS teams cannot face FCS teams unless there's a threshold to where, we would love to see South Dakota State, for example, face a good FBS team, or North Dakota State, but just some of these teams that are playing, it is really brutal. Clock rules just totally suck. We knew this was coming, and what they've done is they've added in more commercials and they've limited total plays, and this is going to really help underdogs who want to run the clock. It's not going to be anything crazy, but you will possibly, if you know how to manipulate the clock based on the new clock rules, you could trim off at one or two entire drives from the opposition, and that could be a huge advantage in determining the game. So I think it rewards the least talented team. And obviously, they're just going to put more commercials in. The big noon game was still 4 hours. Oregon State might have the worst luck in history. The reason I'm saying this is because Oregon State looks really good. They've got a former 5-star quarterback transfer. They just beat San Jose State easily. And this is the year the Pac-12 is amazing. And not only is the Pac-12 amazing, but the Pac-12 is done. They're not even going to be existing. And then Oregon State's probably going to have to become, a group of 5 team after this year. So this is just so unfortunate for Oregon State. I do think they've got a great team, their best team in forever. It's just tough that the Pac-12 is a complete gauntlet this year, and they're probably going to lose 3 games just because it's such a tough conference. Underrated team of the week. So yes, I'll just throw this in there at the end. Maybe this is a team a lot of people don't pay attention to. They get lost in the shuffle. This week I'm going to go with Cincinnati. So Cincinnati was 21-point favorites against Eastern Kentucky, and they absolutely trounced them. Emory Jones, who somehow still has college eligibility, threw for 5 touchdown passes. Cincinnati went up 26 spots or something like that in the analytical rankings, so shout out to them. Not many people talking about them, but guys, those are my top 20 overreactions for week 1. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.